Chapter 14. Jenna's hand gripped her seatbelt as a safety line.
He's so handsome when he's angry.
Zoe cooed.
Are you insane?
June barked.
He's about ready to fry us on the griddle, and you're mooning over him.
He's only mad at Jenna.
Zoe replied.
Jenna!
His snarling voice warned.
Get out now.
Do you think that's wise?
Mary asked Jenna, gripping the steering wheel as she ducked from Grayson's laser stare. Jenna slipped off her seatbelt and poked her head around Mary. I'm going to find my brother. I'll come back after.
You're not going anywhere.
Grayson stated, stalking Mary's window. Mary pressed back into her seat to avoid him. I was just going to stop at the police department.
Call them.
She could do that, she supposed, but he was being a little too authoritative for her current mood. Grayson, she began. His hand snapped up in an order for silence.
Fine.
Grayson said after a deep breath.
I'll take you myself.
Jenna gawked in disbelief. You're going to take me?
I'll also take you to your car. That's where you were really going, isn't it?
Poor Mary was eyeing Grayson as if he was going to take a bite as he leaned over, crowding her space. Jenna took pity on the woman. If Grayson was going to be reasonable, albeit a snarling version, then she would compromise. Jenna opened the door and scooted out to face Grayson. I'll hold you to your promise. The way Grayson bristled at her words, she knew if he was a porcupine, she'd be plucking out quills for an eternity.
My word is my promise.
Mary stepped on the accelerator and sped away, leaving Jenna alone with the brooding bear. A bear that still hadn't buttoned his jeans. He really should take a moment to fix himself. It was very distracting the way her eyes followed the contours of his body, all the way down to that one little button left undone. Like a silent invitation. As a woman who liked details, having something undone, even a button, made her want to reach over and fix it, or to undo it completely. Jenna blinked as her undone button moved away. Where are you going? Jenna called to Grayson's back. You said we could go to the police station.
Can I at least get a shirt before I have to chase you again?
You didn't chase me, Jenna mumbled to herself. Grayson must have heard her because he was standing in front of her again, glaring. Again.
If I wasn't chasing you, then how do you explain the fact that I'm outside dripping wet with no shirt?
Once again, her eyes drifted wayward, and she had to mentally scold herself. He really did need to put on a shirt.
Inside,
he ordered. Jenna followed, not because he'd commanded it, but because nothing good could come from standing like a spooked deer in the driveway. Grayson headed straight for the staircase.
Come.
Why do I have to go upstairs? Jenna asked. I'll wait for you right here.
So you can steal my car and leave?
She hadn't thought about it. It galled her that he'd even think she'd do something like that. Although the idea had some merit, especially with him acting so high-handed, it'd knock him down a peg or two. And land her in jail. At least she'd be at the police station.
You just thought about it, didn't you?
His hands anchored on his hips. He was crazy if he thought she'd admit to something like that.
Upstairs.
When Jenna didn't move, he barked.
Now!
She walked upstairs, but only because he was in such a dither they'd never get to the police station otherwise.
Grayson's brain pounded against his temple as he stormed into his bedroom to rampage his drawers. Jenna stood quietly by the door. He yanked out a shirt and pulled it over his head with such force his hair swept every which way. With a deep breath, he straightened his shirt and raked a hand through his hair. She was going to kill him. His chest felt tight again, nearly suffocating. When he had seen her from the window, sneaking away with the cleaners, fear choked him. He had never lost his temper this way. Grayson knew he was far from perfect, but his temper never flared as out of control as it did with Jenna. It was as if the woman knew exactly how to provoke him. Did she not have any self-preservation sense at all? She was going to march open-eyed right into the hands of those who wanted to harm her. Grayson took another deep breath and turned to find Jenna in the same spot. He thanked the stars for small miracles. Let's go, he said, walking past her and out to the garage, pausing only to activate the house alarm. He knew she was following him. Her noisy huffs and clomping steps kept up with him. Grayson opened a small cabinet in the garage. Plucking out a set of keys, he then headed to his Ferrari. It was his favorite when it came to blowing off a little steam, and he could use it right now.
You keep your keys in here?
Jenna asked. Grayson stopped before he reached the car. Planning on stealing one of my cars, Jenna? He questioned dryly, although his simmering temper ignited again.
Honestly, I hadn't thought about it, not once.
It wasn't her answer that had him clutching his keys. It was her thoughtful expression. And now that you have? She shrugged in silence. Damn it. He badly wanted to shake her, to lock her in her room before she became a danger to herself. Don't bother, he warned. They'll be relocated as soon as we get home.
Grayson, I wasn't going to steal your car.
Jenna said, walking to the passenger side. That's not what your facial expression said. Jenna sat down and buckled her seatbelt, turning then to Grayson.
I just wondered what I would have done had I known the keys were here. That doesn't mean I'd steal your car.
Grayson revved the engine. She could tell him any lie she wanted. The fact remained that she'd tried to escape, and he knew that she'd take whatever escape route possible. And why didn't he just let her? For one thing, he didn't want her death on his conscience. And for another, he felt an absurd need to protect her since she obviously couldn't protect herself. And it didn't seem as though she had anyone else to turn to. She was a menace to herself. His menace. He gunned the car down the driveway and out the gate.
You don't have to go inside the police station with me, Jenna said after a few minutes of sitting in the car next to Grayson, who was stewing and taking corners a little too sharply for her comfort. However, the Ferrari did seem to handle them with ease.
I'm going in.
I don't see any reason why you'd want to. This is a family matter. I can take care of it on my own. He snorted. I can, she insisted.
Jenna, you're in over your head. Just admit you need help. It's okay to depend on others when you need to.
Jenna stared at Grayson, his frame settled against the leather seat, his hands firmly grasping the steering wheel, controlling their destination as he controlled everything in his life. Would he be able to give up control and depend on others? She didn't think so, but he was perfectly comfortable telling others to do so.
What has you so afraid that you can't allow others to help?
I'm not afraid.
You're running scared. You've replaced level-headed Jenna with someone who is so scared she doesn't even think clearly anymore.
My thoughts are just fine. In fact, my current thought is that you're a control freak.
There's nothing wrong with liking to be in control. You can leave off that last bit since you fall into the same category, hardly flattering to refer to yourself as a freak.
I'm not controlling, I just know what I want. Right now, she wanted out of the car.
And you go after it with bulldog tenacity.
Just like you, she said simply.
Touché.
He said with a hint of smile.
But you've just proved my point. Just remember that you're only at your best with a clear, relaxed mind. If you let emotions take over, then you've already let them win. I want to help you, but I can't do that when we're butting heads and I have to worry about your next escape attempt. Can we call a truce and focus on what's important?
Jenna sat quietly for a moment. It wasn't that she didn't want his help. She didn't want to put him in danger. She already knew what it was like to be on the run, always watching her back. No matter how infuriating Grayson could be, she didn't want him to have that same life.
What are you thinking?
I don't want you to get hurt. If something happened to you, I'd feel responsible.
If that's your only concern, then don't worry about it.
You were already shot once. I don't want a second time on my conscience.
How did you know that? And, depending upon who you ask, it was twice.
I watched a news clip. They didn't mention you were shot twice. The corners of his lips curved. Well, she asked, were they wrong?
No, they weren't wrong.
Then how? Why are you smiling?
You've been searching my name on the web, haven't you?
I always search the web, she answered haughtily. It had nothing to do with you. He smirked.
Then what did it have to do with?
Nadia, she blurted before she could stop herself. I'm sorry, she backpedaled. I didn't mean to bring up a painful subject. I had just seen her name on the garden design and I was curious. I thought she was a relative. I didn't mean to pry. I had hoped it'd help with naming the bed and breakfast. Okay, that last part was a lie, but she had to cover her snooping tracks. Grayson's smile disappeared, but he didn't seem as surly as the last time the name was mentioned.
Nadia and I.
You don't have to tell me, Jenna interrupted. It's none of my business. His fingers flexed on the steering wheel.
Listen, Nadia was special to me. She helped me out of a few scrapes. I wasn't there for her, though. I wasn't there when she needed me the most, and I lost her.
I'm sorry, Jenna said. A small laugh escaped.
Don't be.
He said, glancing at her.
I'm not. Not anymore. Heaven help me, but I think everything ended as it should. Or might. Who knows?
At Jenna's worried brow, he smiled.
So, you were about to tell me about how you were cyberstalking me.
I wasn't.
Admit it.
I wasn't, she repeated. Tell me how you were shot.
You said you already watched the news clip.
I did, but what about the second time?
That would have been the second assistant director I hired, Fiona Watkins. Nadia saved my ass that time, too. Although, Fiona had already shot me several times.
Jenna paled. It's a wonder you're still alive. You said she shot you several times. That's more than 2.
I guess you're right, but Remy said it didn't count because it was a nail gun. I had to disagree, especially when he was happily yanking them out.
Jenna winced. That must have hurt. Grayson nodded.
David said he could hear my swearing from his house, a severe over-exaggeration since he was at my house at the time.
At your house? You were shot at your house?
Outside, I was digging a pond.
Pond? You don't have a pond.
It didn't seem right to finish it. I filled the hole.
Any other deranged assistant directors I should be worried about? Jenna asked.
No, I gave up my position after that. I said I wasn't going to hire anyone else.
You hired me.
Technically, a placement service did.
Jenna rolled her eyes. Technically, you hired a recruiter to hire me. It's the same difference.
Yes, and look how well that's worked out.
Jenna deflated. His words cut at her. Although she didn't shoot Grayson yet, she let him down like the others had.
Jenna, I didn't mean it like that,
he said, reaching over to touch her arm.
I understand now why you wanted to leave. I don't judge you for that.
She watched as he placed his hand back on the steering wheel before saying, I don't understand why you want to help me. After all that's happened to you, why help me? Why not just toss me out the door? He ignored the question and turned into the parking lot at Tropical Rain.
Where's your car?
I parked in back, Jenna said, allowing the change in subject, although she knew her thoughts were going to churn for days to come. I had hoped it would be less noticeable. I thought you didn't want to come here. Grayson drove until Jenna spotted her vehicle. He parked a few rows away. What are you doing? Why didn't you park closer?
Hang on a second,
Grayson said, surveying the lot.
I guarantee I'll get a call from David in less than a minute.
Why? Grayson's phone rang. He answered and placed it on speaker.
What the hell are you doing here?
Remy asked.
I could ask you the same thing. I thought you were leaving town.
I thought I was too.
Did David twist your arm?
He couldn't even if he tried.
Remy snorted.
Then who?
You know damn well who.
Grayson turned to Jenna with a lopsided grin.
It was Maya. She's the only person in the world nobody can say no to.
Why is that? He shrugged.
You just can't. I dare you to try it sometime.
After that pronouncement, she didn't even want to be in the predicament to say no,
I only have a few days to help.
Remy said.
After that, you're on your own.
What happens in a few days?
None of your business. Back to my original question, why are you here?
I wanted to show Jenna.
Show me what?
They're in the black van 2 rows up. They have an arsenal in there. I'd stay away. That much power to nab one woman is a red flag. David's in the lot keeping tabs.
Where are you?
Doesn't matter.
Remy said, disconnecting. Jenna glanced over at Grayson. Is he always so abrupt?
I thought he was rather chatty this time. He told us what I wanted to know.
Which was?
The men looking for you and your brother are in the black van over there.
Grayson pointed.
They would have kidnapped you before you even unlocked the door.
Jenna wilted against the seat. She knew she was in danger, but seeing them waiting for her made her realize just how much danger she was in. Suddenly she was relieved that Grayson was willing to help her, and that he'd acted like a wild boar when she tried to leave, if he hadn't stopped her. Grayson touched her shoulder.
Should we go home now?
Jenna nodded. He drove out of the lot, checking the mirror to make sure they weren't being followed.
Do you still want to go to the police?
No, don't bother, she said, her breath shaky. They've had a year to find these men, and you found them in less than a day. What are Remy and David going to do?
Knowing them, I'd have to say I have absolutely no idea. But whatever it is, we're going to stay far away.
Why? Grayson scratched his jaw.
Let's just say they tend to be very destructive.
Destructive? Grayson nodded.
And abrupt.
Jenna had a feeling he wasn't going to elaborate, and really being ignorant was sometimes better. What did Remy mean when he said they were a red flag?
Just that these are common thugs under someone else's thumb. They'll use brute force instead of brains. You could outsmart them, but they'd have you knocked unconscious before you could.
Jenna sighed. I wish I knew where my brother is and what he did.
We can try to figure that out when we get home.
Jenna straightened. How? Grayson grinned.
You're the cyber stalker, you tell me.